So today our objective is what is the difference between functional programming and object-oriented programming. And next we are going to see about basic terminology in OOPS and what are the importance of object-oriented programming and what are the 4 design principles of object-oriented programming. So what is structured programming? So the structured programming, for example, C is a structured programming. Here everything is depends upon function. So the program is divided into multiple functions, that is modules, and every module that contains their own data and function, so which can be called by other modules. So this kind of procedure is followed in structured programming. So the structured programming is example as C. But what is object-oriented programming? Here, the data and function is depends upon object. So we are going to we are connected to related to objects only. So the object-oriented programming, the mainly all the data and methods, everything is depends upon object. So the objects of the same class have the same data elements and methods, and objects only send messages and receive messages, and objects only invoke functions. So the key idea in object-oriented programming is the real world can be accurately described as a collection of objects so that we can interact. It's a real-time entity. Object is a real-time entity. So object may be a one person or place or thing. So that is called object. Method. An action performed by an object is called method. So here we are going to see about another terminology, attribute. So the attribute is nothing but the description of the object is called as attribute. So which is defined in a class. So here the class is similar to objects, but it does not hold any values of the objects. That is called class. So clearly we are going to see about one example. So for example, attribute and method. So the attributes is nothing but, suppose we are going to consider as a car is an object. Okay. So the car is an object. So what are the attributes are related in this car? So the manufacturer name and model name and year and color and number of doors and size of engine. So these are the attributes of that car. So that is object. And what are the methods we are going to define or action is performed by this object is, we are going to change the color and display data items and calculate cost and define data items of manufacturer name and model and year of that car. So everything is known as method. So here car is an object. So the car name, model name, year, color, everything is called attributes. And display things and cost calculation, everything is called as methods. So why we are going to study about this object-oriented programming? So we are going to reuse code at any time. So it will save the development time and cost. Once the object is created, it can be used in any other applications. So easy to debug applications, and we can easy to test our programs easily. Reused objects have already been tested. So these are the very much importance of object-oriented programming concept. And what are the design principles of object-oriented programming? So the first design principle is encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism and inheritance. One by one we are going to see in next slide. So again I am going to explain about why we are going to use object-oriented programming. This is the one of the most important programming paradigm, and here it is well suited for complex applications, and it will increase the productivity of the code, and also we can easy to extend our code with new features, and it reproduce the production as well as the cost is very low. And what are the building blocks of object-oriented programming? The main thing we have seen previous slide, object and classes. So the object is a real world entity. For example, a person, computer or book or box. So here we are going to define this object using attributes and methods. So these all the things we can implemented inside the class. So class is the prototype or blueprint from which objects are created. So class has set of attributes or properties that describes every object, set of behavior or actions that every object can perform. So object has set of data, set of actions, and it is also known as an identity. So here I am going to explain about one real world example of object and class. So here the object is car. Okay. So the car is called as object, and in class the car class contains attributes and behavior. So the attributes contains color, type, model and cylinder. And the behavior of the car is start, stop, reverse and accelerate. So these are the behavior of the car. So these two things is invoked by a class. And the object is car 1 and car 2. So inside the class we are going to create more number of objects. So each object contains their own attributes and own behavior. For example, the first car contains the color yellow and type and cylinder and behavior start, stop, reverse and accelerate. The second car contains the color orange. So the class contains common attributes and behavior, but the object contains the exact identity of an object. So this is the real world example of object and class. So the another example we are considering as class is a person. So here the person 1 is the object. Okay. The name is Annie. Height 5.4 inches and age 21. So the next person, second object contains Adam. So here height is 5.9 and age is 24. So the two objects is created by the same attributes and behavior. So the attributes contains name, height and age, and behavior is the person is going to speak and listen and eat and run and walk. So these are the behavior of this object. So these attributes and behavior is written inside the class. So this is the real world example for class and object. Hope you should understand about what is class and what is object. So now we are going to definition of a class. A class is a set of variables and functions that act on its variable. So here one example, the shipping box. So it contains a set of attributes, name, we are considering the name as a string, and receiver name and cost. So we are going to declare as integer, and weight and shipping cost is a method. So here we are going to calculate the shipping cost. So that is the behavior or action taken by this class. So object. So object definition is the object is an instance of a class that holds values or its variables. Data can be accessed by its functions. So the object of shipping box classes, the class is shipping box. The object A and object B contains the same attributes and behaviors. So now we are going to know about what is object-oriented programming. So this object-oriented programming is a paradigm for problem solving by interaction among objects. It follows a natural way of solving problems. So here, if Annie wants to start her car, so she wants to accelerate and stop, and she wants to do the actions of that objects. So objects is a real world entity. So the next features of OOPS is abstraction. What is meant by abstraction? Extracting essential properties and behavior of an entity is called as abstraction. That means a class represents such an abstraction and is commonly referred to as an abstract data type. So mainly the abstraction is only on the important facts about the problem at hand. To design, produce and describe, so it can be easily used without knowing the details of how we can work. So analogy, so when you drive a car, you don't have to know how the gas and air are mixed and uh, we are going to process that car. So instead you only know to how to use the controls, right? So draw the map. So these are the abstraction. So abstraction is nothing but only the essential features we are going to show inside the class. For example, shipping box, the abstraction is the attribute sender's name and receiver name and cost of shipping and weight, and we are going to calculate the shipping cost. We don't know what is the product inside that box. Okay, right. So that is mean abstraction. So the class contains only sender's name and receiver's name and cost per. So abstraction is nothing but showing essential features and hiding the unknown features. So encapsulation. So the encapsulation is nothing but data hiding. So the only objects method can modify information in the object. So the encapsulation is a mechanism by which we combine data and the functions that manipulate the data into one unit, that is objects and classes. So here the sender name and receiver name and cost per pound and weight and shipping cost. So everything is combined into a single unit, that is shipping box. So this concept is known as encapsulation. So the next important feature is inheritance. Create a new class from existing class is known as inheritance. The derived class inherits the variables and functions of the base class and adds additional features also. So it provides the ability to reuse existing code. So the inheritance is way of organizing classes. So for example, so the inheritance of traits like eye color, hair color and so on. So we are inherit some properties from existing one. So the classes with properties in common can be grouped so that their common properties are only defined once. The inherit its attributes and methods to the subclass is known as superclass. The class which is inherit its attributes and methods to the subclass is known as superclass. Subclass is nothing but it can inherit all its superclass attributes and methods and having its own unique attributes and method. So that is known as subclass. So for example, so the vehicle is a superclass. Here the subclasses are automobile, motorcycle and bus. So this automobile and motorcycle and bus classes are inherited from the vehicle class. For example, in bus we have two types of another behavior, luxury bus and school bus. These are the types of buses. So that is inherit from the superclass vehicle. So this concept is known as inheritance. So the inheritance, another example is bank account. Checking account, that is savings account. We are going to withdraw our account and calculate the interest of our balance. So here the first bank account contains customer name, account type, balance and the methods contains deposit and withdraw. So here the main bank account is a super class. So here our individual accounts, by person the individual account will vary. So they have some common features like customer name and account type and balance and deposit and withdraw. So these are the functions are same, but the person of the class will be different. So the classes is inherited from the super class, bank account class. So these are the another example for inheritance. So for example, the bank account contains some properties, and checking account, another class, contains we are going to check the funds is available or we can deposit. So these two functions inherit from the bank account class. And savings account, so here the individual persons, they are having account with bank account, but their savings and balance are different, and their calculation interest is different. So these two behaviors are inherited from the bank account. So next we are going to see about main features of polymorphism. This is the important features in OOPS, object oriented programming. So the polymorphism is nothing but the same word or phrase can mean different things in different context. So the one person may be act as a multiple form. So that concept is known as polymorphism. So here the polymorphism contains two types of functions: function overloading and function overriding. So here the operations of one function depends upon the arguments. So here the same function fly. So the first function contains without arguments, and the second function fly contains with one argument, that is a string argument, and third function contains the one argument, that is integer argument. The function is same, but we are passing parameters in different. So the one function may be act as in different form. So this type of overloading function is known as function overloading. So these are the main features of object oriented language. So the pure object oriented languages, example Smalltalk, Actor and Java. So the hybrid object oriented languages are C++ and Pascal and Objective-C. Thank you. Thank you, students. Hope you understood what is object-oriented programming and what are the features of object-oriented programming. Thank you.